What is going on, Brooklyn Nets fans, and welcome back to the Brooklyn Boys Show. I am your host, Josh Wolliver. Today, Saturday, August 9th, we get to break down a couple of Nets players who might be on the trade block and might be leaving Brooklyn soon as the Nets look to make a couple more roster movements before training camp. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Brooklyn Boys Show. Before we get into today's episode, make sure you drop down below this video, smash that like button, and hit subscribe. Both the best ways. Free, by the way, to help this channel grow, pushes our content out to more Nets fans, grows our community, grows our audience. So we appreciate all of you guys tuning in here on this Saturday night. In the middle of August, the Brooklyn Nets have a lot of trade scenarios. I want to hear all of yours. Drop those down below in the comments. Thoughts, questions, concerns, reactions, everything you're feeling. I want to hear from you guys, the audience. Your opinions on these takes, what you have to say about our beloved Brooklyn Nets. The Nets are in a very particular and interesting situation. This is a team that has capped out the amount of players that they are allowed to bring in to training camp on their roster. And that is still without re-signing restricted free agent Cam Thomas. So what does that situation continue to look like as we develop even further into the offseason? And he still hasn't gotten signed. But what we really want to talk about today is three players who could potentially be on the chopping block and be traded out of Brooklyn to help create roster spots as the Nets see fit. Three guys that, a couple of them, one of them at least, I didn't even have making the roster. So that's why one of them is a very interesting one. And another one of these guys was someone that the Nets acquired just this offseason. And we will go through Kyler Fox of Sports Illustrated, a beat writer there, a staff writer for the Nets there at Sports Illustrated. Three candidates he thought the Brooklyn Nets could be shipping out this offseason. And the first name he tossed out there, I thought an extremely interesting one, former Summer League MVP Jaylen Wilson. Now, this one is interesting to me because he's a roster bubble guy for sure. He did not shoot the three-pointer efficiently enough last season to have his spot marked off. Obviously, small forward's going to be a position of contention now with Zaire Williams out there. You just drafted a forward in Drake Powell. You took in a couple other forwards this offseason. You got a couple fours into the building, so some combo forwards will probably have to shift out of the power forward spot over to small forward. So Jaylen Wilson, who's already going to have a struggle making this Nets roster, Kyler Fox talks about as a potential trade candidate. To me, I would love to trade Jaylen Wilson. I don't think he is a fit on this Nets roster. To me, right now, his role after they picked up his team option, maybe, I think likely he's on Long Island. I don't think he makes the opening day roster. Maybe I think there's a chance after the trade deadline where the Nets move on from a couple guys that they see they can get the correct value for. Maybe a couple guys we'll talk about later in this video. That's when I could see Jaylen Wilson making an impact after some of the guys ahead of him in the pecking order got shipped off earlier this season. But you're talking about meaningful basketball games, I would say pre-January 1st. Where does Jaylen Wilson lie in the first 4 months of the season on the Nets floor? I don't think he's anywhere near it. I don't think he has his spot on this roster carved out at all, and I think he has a very tough time scrapping his way onto the roster. There are so many moving pieces right now to this Nets roster that Jaylen Wilson doesn't fit on it. So if you can find a trade destination for him, absolutely. And I don't even care what the value is for him at this point. But the only issue to me is that for a trade to go through, you got to have both sides to agree on it. who wants to take in Jaylen Wilson at this point? I don't think there are many teams that are. You're talking about a flat 3-and-D guy, but on inefficient shooting splits. And outside of that Summer League MVP, how much has he impressed you? I mean, not much. So I would have to guess that the other team willing to take on this deal would be another young and inexperienced team, because there's no way I see Jaylen Wilson getting significant run on a team that's contending for a deep playoff run. That's for sure. So what team is likely going to give up draft capital? Because again, the Nets don't have the roster space to be taking very much back in the way of players in this deal, especially if it's before the season. So what other end of the standings team is going to be willing to give you trade value back for Jaylen Wilson? Maybe it's only a second-round pick. I'm not sure what team's willing to do that. But if the Nets can get it out for a second-round pick, I would absolutely be willing to do that. I just think right now that's Jaylen Wilson's highest trade value. The second guy they talked about, definitely the most intriguing guy on this list. Absolutely the guy that, since the second it announced that he was going to become a Net, people were already talking about turning around and flipping him. People were already talking about, well, we just got him, but what can we trade him for? And that, of course, is former Atlanta Hawk himself, Mr. Terrence Mann. 28 years old, part of that deal that brought Drake Powell over here, or his draft rights from Atlanta as part of that 3-team deal to send Porzingis down to the Hawks from Boston. And this is another guy that, look, I would be open to trading. Terrence Mann, if he's not on this Nets team, again, that opens up available minutes for younger guys to step up on this floor and make an impact on this team. I think he absolutely provides value as a veteran role player. I think he'll give Jordi Fernandez the effort that he's looking for. But to be honest, we've seen the youth movement from the Nets basically as soon as the Big Three broke up, especially after they traded Mikal Bridges. They've been trying to get younger as much as they possibly can. So I think absolutely trading 28-year-old Terrence Mann is a great option. I have no issue with that. To me, Terrence Mann, his fit on this team, 3 years younger, perfect fit on this Nets team. Right now, though, at 28 years old, I would rather young guys behind him be able to step up. I would rather take a trade value for him. The question is, and it goes back to what I said about Jaylen Wilson, about both teams having to agree to the deal, that contract's pretty bad. And that's why the Nets were able to get that Drake Powell pick out of that trade. It's because they were forced to take on Terrence Mann's contract. And right now, to the contending team that would want a 28-year-old role player, that $70-something million contract ain't looking too pretty. And the Brooklyn Nets are able to take that on. That's why they said yes to that Drake Powell trade. And they have the cap space, more than enough cap space, for Terrence Mann plus. But you're talking about a contending team at the deadline that's going to have to take on Terrence Mann's contract and then give up more on top of it. So you get a back-of-the-end first-round pick? Sure, I'm fine with it. If you can get maybe a couple seconds, early seconds, I'm fine with it. But you got to be able to take on Terrence Mann's, the other team, has to be able to take on Terrence Mann's contract. And now the final guy I wanted to talk about on this list by Kyler Fox of Sports Illustrated is Dariq Whitehead. Another extremely interesting guy. And that's because he was a top 3 recruit in his class coming out of high school. He was cream of the crop. He was a number 1, top of the list, as Frank Sinatra would say. He was up there, got recruited to Duke, played extremely well, got drafted very young to the Nets, a late 20s pick in the draft, or early 20s pick in the draft, but late-ish relative to the rest of the first round. But man, injuries have killed him. Killed him, I tell you. Let's see. In his 3 seasons, let me look this up out of curiosity's sake. How many games has Dariq Whitehead played in all 3 seasons combined? That's what I want to know. In his career, he's only played 22 games in the 2 seasons before this. 2 in 23, 20 last year, so he's entering his 3rd year. And he's only played 22 games. Injuries have killed him. Remember at the end of last year, he asked to go down to Long Island. He didn't think he could play at the NBA level. He asked to restart his season back down in Long Island when the Nets were ready to bring him up. Dariq Whitehead has the potential to be a key role player on this Nets team. We have seen none of it, though. In his time on the court, which I think is extremely unfair to judge, he's been less than 40% from the field. He has made 42% of his threes and been less than 40% from the field. So I guess that tells you enough what you need to say and need to hear. He's gotten no run at the NBA level. His stats mean nothing right now. It's all based on the potential. And that's actually a cheap tradable contract. To me, I would want to keep Dariq Whitehead around to see what his ceiling can be. The Nets have time to give developmental players their run, to give them their chance, a fair chance at the NBA level, which Whitehead hasn't gotten. But look, if you can flip Dariq Whitehead for multiple seconds, I doubt you get a first from, but for multiple second-round picks, I think the value is there where you're refreshing in the draft and you're recycling compared to an injury-prone, unproven guy who's going to be off contract in 2 seasons. I think the value, if you can get 2-3 second-round picks, is there for me to say, all right, Dariq Whitehead, sorry your career's been injury-riddled, but we're going to ship your cheap contract off, make room on this roster for other guys, and then take a little bit of draft capital with us and run. To me, that's enough for Dariq Whitehead. I think all 3 of the guys that Kyler listed are absolutely available. I don't think Sean Marks hangs up the phone if teams come looking for either of these 3 guys. I think Terrence Mann makes the biggest impact outside of Brooklyn out of these 3 guys, trade-wise. So what other teams looking for a key role player? I think Terrence Mann brings that out of these 3 guys. Dariq Whitehead has the most upside out of these 3. Jaylen Wilson, man, he just feels like the odd man out. I mean, I would trade Jaylen Wilson tonight if it meant I was going to get, just a little bit of draft capital. But man, I wonder who is in the market to chase a guy like that? Who's in the market to get a 24-year-old, I think it is, with inefficient shooting splits and who can't do much with the ball in his hands at the small forward spot? And is going to have to take on Jaylen Wilson and then give up draft capital for that. So that one seems like the most confusing out of this article. The other two seem very they seem logical from the Nets perspective. It's just a question of what other teams are going to come calling for these two guys. Make sure you smash that like button, hit subscribe. I got 13 of you guys in the building right now, so we appreciate your support. Smash like, hit subscribe. Looking to get to 500 subscribers as quick as possible, so your guys' support means the world to us over here at the Brooklyn Boys. Josh Williver here with you on this Saturday evening, talking Nets trade, who could be some possible partners, who could be shipped out. But what I really want to do is I want to hear from you guys in the chat. Make sure you drop thoughts, comments, questions. I see you guys getting all that stuff loaded up, so I appreciate it. If you have any questions, I'll be sure to get to all of those and so much more. Who are potential trade partners? Who do you want to see leave Brooklyn? Heck, who do you want to see coming in? Is Sean Marks doing his thing or not? We'll get to all of that and so much more. Get your questions loaded up right here on the Brooklyn Boys Show after a quick break from our presenting sponsor, Shoreline Sports Cards.
You are listening to the Brooklyn Boys Show with your host, Connor Long. If you're enjoying the show, drop us a sub and leave a like. It helps more Nets fans find us. Quick break, then back to talking Brooklyn Nets basketball.
Today's episode of the Brooklyn Boys Show is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Shoreline Sports Cards, located at 137 Main Street in Port Washington, New York. Whether you're chasing the newest hobby boxes, grabbing singles, or just want to talk cards with fellow collectors, Shoreline is the spot. They've got a massive selection across basketball, football, baseball, and more, with new inventory hitting the shelves every single week. If you're local, make sure to stop by the shop at 137 Main Street in Port Washington and check it out for yourself. If you're not in the area, no worries at all. You can still keep up with Shoreline by following them on Instagram, eBay, and whatnot for product drops, live breaks, deals, and hobby updates. All links are right in the description down below. Huge thanks to Shoreline Sports Cards for supporting the show and the Brooklyn Nets community.
It is the Brooklyn Boys on a Saturday evening. We appreciate you all sticking with us here on the program. Got a ton of great guests lined up for you next week, so make sure you stay tuned. Smash that like, hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell. The best way to stay in the loop with all the content we'll be pushing out to you guys, so we appreciate you all. You guys are the best, and your support is much appreciated. We can't tell you that enough. Get your questions, comments, thoughts in the chat for me to react to. I see Jonathan has a wave of them that I am ready to go through. Let's start up here at the top. Looking at potential trade guys, Terrence Mann, Nick Claxton, and Cam Thomas on a qualifying offer are main trade deadline candidates, while Whitehead and Wilson are on the bubble too. Look, Jonathan, I think absolutely. The reason why I stuck with Mann and Whitehead and Wilson, those are just the three guys that were listed in the article, so that's what I was reacting to. But I think Claxton and Thomas are right next in line as potential trade partners. Going into the offseason, it was obviously Nick Claxton and Cam Johnson as the two biggest ones. You got Johnson out of the way with MPJ coming into the building, who, I originally thought they would be more in the market to flipping, but it seems like Sean Marks would rather settle in with a solid, hopefully close to 40% three-point shooter as a consistent starting four for this team. But Nick Claxton, I mean, absolutely. We've done a ton of episodes of Connor and I on Claxton. I said he's been getting a little too much hate from this fan base this offseason, but if you can get good trade value for Nick Claxton, I'll be the first to tell you he absolutely could be shipped out. Cam Thomas, I said it to begin the show. I mean, that's a day-by-day thing. We're crawling through this offseason. On Saturday, August 9th, Cam Thomas continues to have no movement regarding his offers the Nets have given him, regarding teams that are interested. So if he does come back on that qualifying offer, on that cheap deal, he'll definitely be in a trade situation. It would be nice if the Nets front office can utilize that cap space soon and either re-sign Cam Thomas so Brooklyn doesn't have distractions going into training camp. Look, Jonathan, that's what I was talking about a couple of days ago. When you have this cap space, I think it was on ESPN flaming the Brooklyn Nets in that offseason. I think it was on that live stream. You have this cap space that you've created for yourself, the most in the league by a mile, and you're probably just going to end up sitting on roughly $20 million of it going into the offseason. Who knows what happens with Cam Thomas, but it's likely, it doesn't seem like Sean Marks wants to give to Cam Thomas $20 million. So it's likely some of that's going to end up going to waste and they sit on it. Obviously, they signed Fenbo Zhang, the Chinese star, to a deal. So there's a little bit of it, but you're right. It is frustrating when they have that much cap space. They had the ability to go get somebody on the free agent market, and it just feels like Sean Marks sat back and sat on the cap space he had to work with. So absolutely frustrating, and I want Cam Thomas on this team. To finish up your thought here, Jonathan. I've said it all along, even through these contract disputes. I want Cam Thomas on this Nets team. I said it at the beginning of this offseason. I stand by it. I think he is a scoring threat from anywhere and at any time on the court. I think that's a rare commodity in the NBA, and I think that's something that's worth paying a guy for. How much, we could have this dispute all day, but I think the Nets have the cap space. I would absolutely pull the trigger on a homegrown talent who you want to stick around, and I think it overall sends a positive vibe. The locker room is where I keep those questions, comments, thoughts loaded up. In fairness, Dariq Whitehead, Jaylen Wilson, and somewhat Noah Clowney are on the bubble as far as trying to fight for roles on the bench, and some Nets fans see them as expendable. I would disagree with Noah Clowney. I thought he showed you more than enough last year. Whether the 3-point shooting wasn't great, but it's something that can be developed from a young guy like him. He was playing a lot of that center role. I know I talk about how the Nets love to go small, but I think he shifts over to that power forward spot, and I think that suits him better as more of that 6'9", 6'10" guy, so not a true naturally built center. But if he can expand on that perimeter shooting and then also be an anchor, getting rebounds and dishing it back out, especially on the offensive side of things, I think Noah Clowney brings you a ton of upside. Dariq Whitehead, I talked about it earlier, injury-prone guy, so if he can stay on the court, I think he has the potential to bring the Nets value, but I think, there are some teams out there that could be interested in his potential and could give you some second-round picks if I had to guess, so that would be hard to resist if I'm Sean Marks. And then Jaylen Wilson, inconsistent three-ball shooter, so I'm willing to trade him. I just don't know who wants to get him. So that's the interesting thing about Jaylen Wilson. You got to find a trade partner, and right now, I don't think there are too many teams interested in him. Let's see. We'll continue with Jonathan. Terrence Mann, thankfully, is only making $15 million, so Brooklyn could possibly get 2 to 3 second-round draft picks and an expiring salary for him if they flip him at the deadline. Yeah, with the nuances in the cap space rules, you would have to kind of weigh that out to the point where I don't think Brooklyn could take on more than $10 million in net salary. So if it is an expiring contract, it couldn't be anything egregious. I think unless you're adding to what Brooklyn's giving up contractually, it would have to be a pretty cheap expiring deal or definitely within $24 million. So it can't be a very expensive guy. But I think absolutely Mann is on the trade block. So they flip him for some draft capital and an expiring guy at the deadline who plays out the rest of the season with Brooklyn. I absolutely have no problem with that. Man, somebody who I think can make a big-time impact on a contending team, but his fit in Brooklyn is a big-time question mark, as he is surrounded with a lot of younger guys who, to be honest, need the playing time more than he does. Let's see. The Trae Young situation is something to monitor, especially if he doesn't get an extension before the season starts. And Nets might be interested if he's available next year. To be honest, if I'm Atlanta, and I don't think I've talked about it on the show much, what does their future hold without Trae Young is so interesting. And I think they might want to go down that path because they've given the Trae Young experiment a run for its money. And they've gotten a couple plans, whatever. They had that crazy series against the Knicks that made every Knicks fan in the world hate Trae Young. And he's definitely given them bright moments. But for the most part, they haven't been able to build around Young. And the experiment seems like it's kind of staling out. To be honest, I don't think they pay him, Atlanta. I don't think they pay him before the start of the season. I think they let this thing play out. And if it's another 9-10 seed finish where maybe they win a play-in game but get swept or lose in 5 in the first round, In my eyes, the experiment with Trae Young is over. I don't think he's a Hawk in 2 years, if that's the way it plays out. But to me, there's no reason that this Nets team chases Trae Young. You just got Yegor Demon in the draft. I'm assuming you bring back Cam Thomas. You have a lineup of young guards. Why bring in a ball first, shoot first, me first guard? What do you got a ton of them you can try out? One of them will work out, I guarantee you that. Trae Young has no role on this Nets team. He's not going to be in Atlanta, but he better not be in Brooklyn. I would hate Trae Young coming to Brooklyn. I mean, look, I get it. He's a great scorer. Absolutely. But there's so many guys behind you, you would have to pay him at an extremely premier price. As the all-star that he is in this league, Nets don't want to tie themselves up with that long term. Nets don't want him to take away shots from a lot of the younger guys. So I think that bringing in Trae Young would be a silly move, but I also don't think he's going to be a Hawk. To the 10 of you guys watching, make sure you smash the like, hit subscribe. Appreciate your support. Saturday night, we'll wrap up soon after a couple more questions. Get your questions, comments loaded up. If you want me to talk about it, you got to put it in now. I got about a couple more here from Jonathan. Make sure you're subscribed, notifications on. Helps us grow significantly. Helps you stay in the know with everything we're doing around here. Dariq Whitehead needs to be healthy, but unfortunately, leg injuries are such a blow to a player's longevity. And Dariq's speed has definitely lost a few steps. Maybe a second-round pick for him. Yeah, so your return's going to be pretty cheap there. And you're right. Leg injuries suck, especially for a shifty guard, which he was out of high school and out of college. And the Nets had good reason to think highly of him. But you never plan for injuries when you take a guy in the draft. And unfortunately, it hasn't worked out for him. So I think he may be on this trade block, especially as the Nets look to thin down their roster. Because they're at the max. You can't sign anybody else to this training camp roster as of right now. They've reached the limit, so they got to do something with some of these players, especially if Cam Thomas is going to come back. They got to make a move somewhere and either make a cut or make a trade. So if they want Cam Thomas back on this team, if they want anyone else on this team, they are going to have to make some room somewhere. And I think Dariq Whitehead could be that spot. Tyler Hero and Trae Young, who could both be available next year, if not signed to extensions, do you think fits Brooklyn's direction better as a secondary star? Well, I don't think that Trae Young would be a secondary star. And I talked about why I don't want him on the roster. As for Tyler Hero, this is an interesting one. But Hero's another guy who, 6th man of the year before, I think he absolutely is a good player in this NBA. Again, just don't think he fits where the Nets are at structure-wise. I think he's a good player, and I think he can make an impact on any NBA team he's on. But to me, I don't think he fits this team trying to get younger, trying to mine talent out of the draft. I don't think he fits that the Nets are looking for the stars they got in the draft and not so much in big-time free agent hits. I talked about this a week ago. Unfortunately, I think the reality of the situation is when it's all said and done, a couple years down the line, Sean Marks will think he has built enough of a supporting cast, go out, overcommit to a star, overpay him, overvalue him, give up too much in a trade for him, and the Nets will be stuck right back where they were at the end of the Big Three era, at the end of the Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett era. I think that that's just the way this Nets team operates. Unfortunately, I think they're going to make the same mistake a third time in the Brooklyn era. And I don't want it to happen. Because you have these young guys. I didn't like the Yegor Demon pick, but maybe it works out. Cam Thomas, an efficient scorer. This Nets team just cannot overcommit too early to when they don't have a championship recipe down the line. That's a video for another day. But I mean, I hope that Sean Marks doesn't get sucked back into this idea of overinvesting in a star. Last question here from Jonathan: How much on the hot seat is Sean Marks for these prospects to work out? And given the 2026 lottery to become a franchise guy. Also, Marks' contract is up soon. Given that's been a mystery. Yes, Sean Marks is very much on the hot seat. He has 2 to 3 years of these guys, of this rookie class. He has the 2026 likely high lottery pick. You're looking at AJ DeBance to Cam Boozer, a couple of those 26 stars. And I think absolutely, Jonathan, if these guys don't pan out, he's out of here. I think he's already on the hot seat. He has mishandled a lot of things as Nets GM. I know he loves Nick Claxton, but one more bad year for him, and that is example number 1 for Sean Marks, the case to fire him. I think that if this Cam Thomas situation continues to be botched and there's a toxic relationship with him and the front office and the team, and he doesn't work out, and he gets that change of scenery that I think he wants right now, and he goes to another team and he balls out, Sean Marks is just going to get flamed. He is going to get flamed with no remorse. If Cam Thomas goes out there on another team, plays as well as I think he can, no remorse. And then as for the 2026 lottery pick, it'll be the 2025 class's second year after that season. You'll truly see what they have. I don't want Sean Marks to be this team's GM. I have no clue what Joe Tsai is thinking, but absolutely Sean Marks is on the hot seat for this franchise. Now, moving forward in the future, after the dust settles on this draft class, we see what they truly have. There's a lot still to be seen about Sean Marks, but a couple more bad moves, and I think he's out of there. Rep NY says Jets cooking. Let me check the score right now. First Jets preseason game. 27-10. Jets are up with the ball moving into Packers territory. Absolutely, Rep NY. I am so excited. I mean, I think you can tell by the background of the set here how much of a Jet fan I am. So, can't wait for this new season to start, but had to miss the second half of that first preseason game to stay committed to the grind because you all watching are the best. U15 in the chat. 27-10. I know I saw Justin Fields with that opening drive touchdown, which was electrifying. A couple other good plays from some of the second stringers. So I'm sure it's all guys fighting for the end of the roster right now. But I can't be sure right now because I'm not watching. But appreciate you tuning in here on the show, Rep NY. We appreciate you. And over on Connor's channel as well, where he talks Jets over there. So appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate you all. Jonathan says, thanks for the great answers. Absolutely. Thank you for asking some great questions. And then Rep NY comes in with always, so we appreciate it. All of your guys' support, again, smash the like, hit subscribe, helps us grow significantly here on the show on our road to 500 subscribers, seeing if we can make it here. I'll give us till a couple weeks from now. Hopefully we can hit that 500 mark and begin monetization, so that'll be awesome once we can get here. Again, we appreciate all your support as we're getting ready to wrap up here on the show. Any final thoughts, questions, comments, you can toss those in the chat for me to react to. But for now, this Nets team has a lot of decisions to make as we go into training camp, as preseason begins, and eventually, end of October, baby, we'll have Brooklyn Nets basketball. Oh boy, I cannot wait. Aaron Glenn is for real. That's the hope. He's got to instill discipline on this Jet team. Let's see if Justin Fields is the real deal, but I am very confident in the coaching staff the Jets have hired. So, absolutely, I really hope that this Jets team goes a long way this year. How many wins do you think the Nets get? I think it's in the range of 25 to 30 rep NY. I'm a little higher than a lot of Net fans. I'm just hoping that a couple of these young guys can show flashes of greatness. Some guys like Dameron Sharp can take that next step in his development. Nick Claxton can return to form from a couple years ago. So I think this Nets team is closer to the 30 win mark than a lot of Net fans are on this team. I'm pretty high on them relative to the consensus. So I appreciate you all tuning in again. Smash the like, hit subscribe, share this with all your friends and family. Get them in on the know of what's happening here at the Brooklyn Boys Show. To the guys that stuck with us from beginning to end, appreciate it. You all are the best. I'll leave us with one great faith sign of hope. Let's go Nets. Good night, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.